Hey YouTube, it's Nick, and today we are going to talk about sleep paralysis, and I'm going to share one of my own personal experiences with it. I guess unwittingly, or unknowingly, I decided today would be a great day when I filmed to wear my Morgana shirt from Persona 5, which fits with the theme perfectly, so just kind of making some lighthearted humor for this. Anyway, let's get started. So, just like I normally do, I always give history or fact before I provide any sort of paranormal information. So what I'm going to start with right now is just letting you know some facts about sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis happens either right before you're about to enter REM sleep or right when you're leaving REM sleep. So when you are leaving or entering REM sleep, your body has a lot of chemical reactions that is occurring because REM sleep is your rapid eye movement phase of your sleep, where all of your dreaming occurs. Waking up really suddenly from this, or waking up without letting your body go through the phases that needs to, can cause hallucinations, can cause pressure on your chest. And sleep paralysis is basically when your body has chemicals released in it when you're in REM sleep, and it lets you move your eyes, and your body's still doing the functions that it needs to do to survive. Your heart's pumping blood, your diaphragm and lungs are working so you're able to breathe, but that's it. The reason your body kind of shuts everything else down during that phase is so that way you don't reenact your dreams while you are sleeping. So you're not flailing and hitting other people or launching yourself off of your bed or falling off of something. Because you've got to think, this is something ingrained into our bodies. We are always going to try and seek out some form of shelter. So depending on where that shelter is, if you are moving around a ton in your sleep, you could be falling off of the side of a building or, falling off of a tree or anything like that, where it could cause bodily harm. So your body kind of prevents that and is like, no, we're not going to let you do that. During this phase, when you wake up, your body could hallucinate. And there's 3 different types of hallucination that people tend to report. First is a pressure on their chest. And they usually call this stage like the incubus stage or something like that, where you're going to have a physical presence directly on you, where you feel something pushing on your chest or something is sitting on you. The second one is the intruder, which is basically somebody is in the room with you, generally a malevolent entity, demons, malicious spirits, things like that. The third thing is an out-of-body experience. So you kind of wake up, you can see yourself, you can see the whole room, and then you start visualizing scary things either in the room with you, or that you feel like you're going to die, or that you are dead and you're just looking down at yourself. Now, between 6 and 17% of people will experience sleep paralysis at one point in their life. Now, there are people that experience it a lot more due to a couple of the following issues. Genetics plays a huge role in this. It could be something hereditary that causes you to have sleep paralysis. Another is sleep schedule. If you're not getting enough sleep, you can expose yourself to the higher risk of having an occurrence of this, which kind of flows into the next one, which is narcolepsy. If you have narcolepsy, you're at higher risk of having sleep paralysis. Sleeping on your back could also be another way that you could have sleep paralysis occur. A lot of back sleepers report having it. There are a lot of different scientific reasons for sleep paralysis and who it would most likely affect. Now that we've talked a lot about science, now I'm getting into the paranormal side of things and why I feel like there are scientific reasons that sleep paralysis can occur, as well as supernatural reasons or paranormal reasons. There are also paranormal reasons for sleep paralysis. And the reason that I'm so steadfast in those beliefs are that spirits rely on energies of emotion in order to try and sustain physical form sometimes, or emotional connectivity to things, or the ability to physically connect with an object and move it, or interact even with spirit boxes and things like that. Anything that requires energy, just like us, just like we have to eat, they need and require energy. During sleep, you are at your most vulnerable stage because you are not mentally blocking things out. You cannot keep your skepticism in your sleep. You cannot keep your opinions in your sleep. You cannot reflect on your beliefs in your sleep. So it kind of leaves you wide open to any and everything. The second part of that is that when you are that open to everything and they require that energy, it's also a way for spirits to be able to communicate with the living and try and pass messages along. So if you're a medium, you can see or hear or understand what spirits want. Everybody else doesn't have that option. So this is one way where you're at a vulnerable stage where things can be influenced and things can be discussed. One of the things that my family has always told me is that if you dream about a family member who had passed away, it means that they're thinking about you, which has been very helpful in my life with the amount of people that we've lost. So it's nice to know that when you're dreaming about somebody that has passed away, it means that they're thinking about you. And as I stated in a prior video, you can't dream about somebody that you've never met. So if you are dreaming about somebody that you don't recognize at all, it could very well be something is influencing your dream. And again, this kind of ties into the poor forms of communication as well with spirits, because if you think about it, if you're leaving yourself open and you're welcoming something into your body, you're kind of asking to be possessed or have an occurrence like this. So if you're willfully wishing and allowing and stating to the spirits around you, please let me see what you want me to see, let me dream your dreams, like, you are welcoming things into you that may not be a spirit, that may be an entity of some other kind. So you have to be very cautious with things like this and protect yourself in the best ways possible. And this is also something that's not just common in one area of the world. This is everywhere, and it's been recorded for a long time. A few situations of this happening around the world are women with long fingernails that sneak into your house to sit on your chest. And that one's from Peru. We have another one that is from Newfoundland, which is an old hag. It's a witch, comes in and sits on your chest. We have demons that come in and do the same thing. And then we also have, in Spain, a black cat or black dog that does the same thing. So it kind of ties in with the shadow figures that are out there. So a lot of these have to do with the symptoms that you feel and have during sleep paralysis. So paranormal ties in with signs. You kind of don't know where one begins and one ends. Alright, so I'm getting into my sleep paralysis story. This happened back, I guess, around when I was in high school. I was really getting into the paranormal, and I was doing a lot of research about the paranormal. And not just that, but I was assisting with my cousins who had a farmhouse that had a lot of history to it. The land itself had records back to the 1700s, and we were able to find a lot of it. The interesting thing about the house was that usually it was the widow who was selling it, that she had lost her husband, and we don't know if he passed in the house or not, or whatever the case might be. But it was a combination, I think, of all of that research, of dredging things up, and just leaving myself very vulnerable. Go to sleep like any other normal night, and I'm dreaming. And in the dream, there's some weird things that typically I wouldn't dream too much about, and it was very odd. The dream started off normally with just my family and things like that, and then it started going into a different direction. We went to a museum, And it was my mom, my grandmother, and myself. And we were at the museum, and we go downstairs into the basement. And I take out my cell phone. And back in high school, I had a flip phone. So I pull out my flip phone, and I take a picture of one of the artifacts there. And I start taking different pictures. And we keep going further and further and further down into this museum until the point that we hit a place that I guess had a lot of Egyptian artifacts. And I take a picture with my cell phone. My grandmother looks at it and she goes, "Something's weird about this picture. Something doesn't seem right." So I look at it and I see that there's a green mist in there. I'm like, So I start zooming in on the picture, and all of a sudden I just get this overwhelming feeling of everything. Like, it was just overwhelming emotion. My eyes dart open, and I can't move my body, I can't move anything apart from my eyes. And I see right above me an old lady. And it's not like the old witch that are described the other stories that I've read. She may have been from like the late 1700s, early 1800s, and I feel her hands come down and touch my temples, and I have a flash of her entire life. Everything. You see her childhood, her teen years, going into her adulthood, getting married, having children, everything, all the way up into her death. And that's when it stopped. And I didn't feel any sort of malevolence to it. I didn't feel any sort of evil. I think it was mostly just somebody that wanted to tell their story. And this was the opportunity that presented itself. This was the opportunity that they had in order to show what they'd been through in their life. Once everything stopped, that green mist came back. At the last image, the green mist covered my eyes completely, and it fogged back. I don't know how much of you follow into New Age type things, but if you ever have had somebody tell you about your aura, or discussed your aura, or have looked into what color should my aura be, or what does this mean? Green can denote sickness, and that's how she died, was a sickness. So I guess it just was residual energy of that, and she faded away. As fast as she had come, she faded away, and it took me a minute, and all I could feel were tears coming down the side of my eyes, because I'm on my back, I can't move, I can't do anything. And it's a combination, I guess, of the overwhelming emotion that I felt during that whole thing, and a combination of fear. Because you're entering something that's completely unknown to you, and you don't know how to react, or what's going on, or is this thing going to come back, or are they going to try and possess me? Like, you never know, especially with the paranormal, because there's not a ton of for sures with paranormal. You don't know what you're going to get into in different situations. So, needless to say, I was nervous and scared and sad and upset, and I just couldn't sleep anymore after that. So I tossed and turned and just continued to think about everything that had happened. Even weird thinking about now, because, I mean, you can explain scientifically, well, your body woke up after REM sleep and wasn't completely awake, and you were paralyzed and had all of these hallucinations. Now, here's the thing that bothers me, is when they talk about the hallucination portion of things, they talk about these are things that you're going to see in the present area that you're in. Like, you're going to see a demon in the corner of the room approaching you slowly. You're going to see a malformed being, like, creeping towards you. But that wasn't the situation with this. And there was a tactile feel to it as well, because I could feel her touch me. So it's just, very strange. And that's why I kind of feel like this is more of a paranormal occurrence than I would denote a scientific occurrence towards it. And yes, there's a combination of both because it does involve sleep paralysis and body chemistry. But I'm very curious to know what you guys have experienced in terms of sleep paralysis. If you feel like it is a paranormal occurrence, or if this is something that is just scientific and you woke up and now everything's kind of clicking because you've experienced the things that I've talked about on the science side of things. But I'm very curious to know what you have to say. So please feel free to give me a comment down below and let me know